What's up, everyone? Welcome in and welcome back to Shaw Locals Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors along with Sean Hammond. It is Monday morning, December 11th, and we are here, Sean, to break down a 28-13 win for the Chicago Bears, their second straight win over an NFC North opponent, and frankly, in pretty dominant fashion yesterday at Soldier Field, Sean.
Yeah, I think we can both pat ourselves on the back for picking the Bears in this game because they looked really, really good pretty much all day long. I mean, I know the Lions, the Bears jumped out to a 10-point lead, and the Lions sort of battled back there in that first half. There was a missed fourth down try for the Bears that kind of gave them the ball near midfield, and they took advantage of it. But then, you know what? I really like the way the Bears came out after halftime. They played really well defensively. I would say this is maybe their best defensive game all season, Kyle.
I'd have to think about it for a while. The big thing I'll take away from yesterday is they gave up those 13 points in the second quarter there. The Lions clearly had made some adjustments, and the Bears went into halftime. We've complained, ad nauseum about this Bears coaching staff not making proper adjustments. The players talked about it in the locker room after the game yesterday. I saw quotes all over the place. They clearly made the correct adjustments at halftime, which is a major step forward.
Yeah, and you know what? They made some nice adjustments, and I think they, for whatever reason, man, it seems like they have had Jared Goff's number. I mean, a bunch of turnovers last time they played him, a bunch of turnovers today, or not today, but Sunday. The Bears have done a really, really nice job against this Lions team. I mean, really, they should have beat this team twice. The offense played well when it needed to. I think it wasn't like an outstanding offensive performance, and we can get into that a little bit more. But Justin Fields and the offense did enough to win the football game, and there were stretches where they looked really good.
Absolutely. He is Sean Hammond. You could follow him on X at Sean_Hammond. You can find myself on X at Kyle Nabors. You can find all of our content at Bears_Insider. Of course, go to shawlocal.com. All of Sean's content is up there, as well as our 3 and Out from Jake Bartleson, who's producing this morning's show behind the scenes for us. And of course, if you are watching us live on YouTube, you can jump into the chat, leave us a question or a comment, subscribe to the channel, like the video for us, please. It helps other people find the show. We really, really appreciate that, guys. It's a big help. Sean, let's start with Justin Fields, because at the end of the day, that is the biggest thing for this stretch, this post-bye stretch. And we were talking about it a little before we jumped on here. I likened it to, like, Justin Fields did not have his A game yesterday. He did not have his best accuracy. There are several throws I think he talked about after that he'd like to have back, but he found a way to win a game. And as I said before we jumped on, right? Like, I likened it to, like, when you're a golfer and you can't get off the tee box and you find a way to scramble and save yourself a par, or you're a pitcher and you don't have your strikeout pitch, your put away pitch, but you find ways to get through 6 innings and give your team a chance to win a game. That was Justin Fields yesterday for the misses. I think of the DJ Moore dagger route over the middle of the field that I'm sure Justin Fields wants back.
He specifically mentioned that one after the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Cole Kmet probably should have caught that one. That was over his shoulder, but Justin also could have put a better ball on him. There were a couple other throws. I'm trying to remember who they were too offhand.
There was one to Mooney down in the red zone. I don't know. Maybe
he left it out wide right.
It might have been a little bit of both their fault, or the throw was a little off. Yeah. There were certainly several of those plays.
But he found different ways to win the game, whether that was with his legs. He made big throws when he needed to. And of course, this all comes down to execution. How many times have we seen the Bears fall victim to the jumping off sides on a hard count? Aaron Rodgers felt like he got that at least once a season against the Bears.
That's what I was thinking when I saw that. As like, how many times did we see the Packers do this exact thing to the Bears? And I wrote about that in my story. It's like, that's the type of play that the Bears never get. And to see them come through in that moment was pretty cool.
Mike B checking in this morning says, I loved that Justin was able to make plays while clearly not having his best effort, and all while getting a win and making basically no mistakes. Yeah. 2 games in a row now
Mhm.
no turnovers, playing well. And there were several times in that game where frankly Justin should have been taken down for sacks, and his escapability and his mobility, extended drives. There was a play near the goal line, near the end zone. He was able to escape, but I'm still not sure how he got out of there.
That was maybe his most impressive scramble of the season. That was nuts. First, Aiden Hutchinson has the first initial look at him, and somehow Justin scoots by him, and Hutchinson goes flying into the end zone. Then Anzalone had a shot at him right there, and then Hutchinson had a second chance from behind, and still Justin is just moving around in that pocket, keeping the play alive. And, at that point, he just says, I'm going to take off and run, and turns it into not only a first down, but just a huge gain. That was just such an impressive football play. You don't see too many quarterbacks doing that.
What do you think about the Bears' game plan in general? From Luke Getsy on the offensive side of the ball, you had the rushing touchdown for DJ
Mhm.
Moore there to open the game. You had a fourth down pitch call to DJ Moore that got stuffed. Um, Overall, I felt like the game plan was pretty good. That was really the only, I feel like, offhand that I can think of truly questionable call.
Yeah, I would say that 4th and 1 play was the only, after going back and rewatching it again, like that's the only play call where you probably want that one back if you're Luke Getsy. I think, you know, if you're the Eagles, you could probably run that play. They've done the tush push so many darn times. The Bears, while they use it a lot, haven't done it nearly as much as the Eagles. And I think you just need a little motion or something to make that play work. I don't know exactly. Yeah, if it'd be motion, it'd be another blocker. All you really have is one receiver out there blocking, and it just didn't work. Um, so yeah, that's probably one you want back. But I would say this was overall. I was happy with how Luke Getsy called this game. I think they called a really nice game offensively. I mean, you want the execution to work a few other times. I think when we're talking about Justin, you can harp on the throws he missed. I think there were several throws that were really tough throws that he made. I'm thinking about that one to Mooney when
That was just
the
silly.
guy should have had an interception. He dove, and then Mooney made a really nice play after the catch. I mean, that ball was almost tipped at the line of scrimmage too. I mean, that was inches away from two defenders, and to make that throw is just so impressive. And there was another one. I think it was a third down to DJ Moore near the end of the game. That was, Moore made an insane catch. Showed off his hand skills on that, but that was a really tough throw too. I think you got to mention those when you're talking about the throws he missed as well.
And when we talk about the Bears offense for the positive, people, Rick says he played 3 good quarters. That second quarter was god awful. Yeah, the Bears did not look good in that second quarter. But credit once again, they did not let that snowball on them. They went in, they made the proper adjustments, and got back on track. The other thing I was going to say, Sean, is you mentioned execution there. The Bears still have to get better on execution, and that's a reason I feel that this offense still has, a fairly large amount of room to grow. I think of they ran a screenplay to DJ Moore. I
Yep.
can't remember where it was in the game, but they had it. They had the defense beat. Like, it was the correct play call. It was Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet out on the edge with DJ Moore, and they had 2 defenders to block. It was one-on-one blocking, and DJ Moore could have got it up the field. And for some, I have no idea what happened there, but Mooney and Kmet blocked the same guy and let a free
Mhm.
defender come into the backfield and tackle DJ Moore. Those are the type of things that the Bears are still working on. There were several instances of things like that yesterday where they got to get it cleaned up still.
Yeah, I think there was that sack in the first half where it looked like Roshan Johnson must have blocked the wrong guy, or Lucas
Yeah,
Patrick needed to scoot over one guy, or the communication. And I point that one out because the Bears have so many young players, and those are things that they're going to have to learn. A Roshan Johnson, he's a really good pass blocker when he's in the right position, and it's just picking up, knowing who you're supposed to block in those situations. Is the difference between the play working and not.
Sean, I just looking through here. I think I'll give you a second here. I think we got the sun coming through. I don't know. Can you see that on your screen?
Is that, yeah? You know what? I wasn't sure if that's just my computer or if that you
I
guys are
think it.
seeing that.
I think it's
Let me
a glare from the sun coming in the window.
let me pull the blind down here for a second.
All right,
I'll
that's good.
rejoin you in a minute.
That sounds good. What's up, Jake?
Kyle, good morning. I'll give Sean a quick second here.
Yeah, that's better, Sean. Jake, what did you think of the Bears offense yesterday?
Like what you guys have been talking, I think for the most part, you got to be pretty happy with the play calling by Luke Getsy. Again, you can get nitpicky on, some of the DJ Moore rushes. I thought it was a little strange that he didn't have a target in that first half. Like they didn't even try to get him downfield. Obviously it was inconsequential, but for the most part, I think you got to be pretty happy with the execution, especially the way Justin played. So looks like Sean's back.
So. Yeah, guys, it was cloudy when our podcast started 10 minutes ago, and now the sun's out. So
I had that happen. I sit next to a window too. I had that happen during the Friday Night Drive podcast last week, or all of a sudden I just had a giant glare in my eye and across the screen. Anyway, so let's see. I see people talking about Darnell Mooney blocking in the chat. Yeah. Equanimity is St. Brown. It's an underrated aspect of being a wide receiver in the NFL, and that's what makes the 49ers offense so good. I was watching that game yesterday afternoon, and still just incredibly impressive with the way George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, all those guys throw their bodies in there for blocking in that scheme.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the type of offense that the Bears are trying to emulate. The same thing that Green Bay runs or similar things. Those are all kind of the same tree of offenses, and you have to have your wide receivers blocking if it's going to work. I mean, you're trying to get guys moving side to side a little bit. That's a big aspect of that. I mean, I see some people in the chat pointing out, do you really want Darnell Mooney being the lead blocker in that situation? I mean, I don't think Mooney's a bad blocker. Obviously, he's not a big guy, so that makes it tough. But
you also, I mean, you didn't have a ton of wide receivers available yesterday.
Well, that's the other thing.
Who else are you going to put on the edge to block, right? Like if
you're probably not trusting Velus Jones to do it,
right? You're not trusting Tyler. Anytime you put Tyler Scott in that situation, he's failed.
You take Mooney over Scott. You take Mooney over both those guys, frankly. I mean, I mean, you're going with your best option. And I mean, in that situation, in that instance, it obviously didn't work.
No. But again, like the play call was fine. The play call was good, actually. It's just execution there. All right. But quickly, we got to get a shout out to our sponsor in here, Ken Nelson Auto Group. Proudly serving the Sauk Valley area for over 55 years, Ken Nelson Auto Group offers 10 new vehicle franchises in one convenient location right here in Dixon, Illinois. Shop a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at KenNelsonAuto.com. I saw a question or a comment from Mike B up here. Let's see if I can find it. Talking about that, he's going ahead. Yep, there it is. Jake knows exactly where I'm going with it.
Read your mind.
Reading my mind. We have to officially make it official that this defensive unit is top 10 in the league, at least right now. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're playing fantastic. They've had 3 turnovers in 3 straight games. You could point to Montez Sweat coming in here. I think that's part of it. I think part of it is also that the secondary was really banged up those first 4 or 5 games of the season. And now those guys have been healthy and playing together. And the coverage was really, really good yesterday. Even some of the throws that Jared Goff made, when they did get big plays downfield, I mean, they were tight windows. Like it was often those situations where it's like, what more can you do defensively?
He made a throw over the middle late in the game that was between 3 defenders. That was really impressive. But overall, great from the defense. Montez Sweat, man, you talk about getting bang for your buck on a trade. That's what you're looking for when you give up assets. That he is playing incredibly well. It is making a big difference. He's been better in pass rush than I expected. Like I knew how solid he was as an overall player. He is making a huge impact with that pass rush. So
and there were times too when it seemed like the Lions, in the run game, especially in that first half when they were running the ball more, they're running away from Montez Sweat. They're going the other direction. And if one guy can influence that, that makes it so much easier for the defense. Ian Rappaport this morning tweeted out, some numbers from NFL Research. Those first 8 weeks, the Bears were giving up 27 points a game. Since Montez Sweat got here, they're giving up 18. Total yards, it was 341. They're down to 272. And he's got a bunch of different stats. 10 sacks the first 8 weeks they had 11 over, since Montez got here. So yeah, you can see the influence he's having on this defense.
He's having a big impact. Part of it is just you had a lot of new guys coming in. I think it took a while, right? Like TJ Edwards has played much better the second half of the season. You think back like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, though, like he was really struggling in run fits. Tremaine Edmonds was kind of up and down. Those guys both played really well yesterday. Really over the last month of the season, both of those guys are playing well. No surprise in the secondary. We came into the season feeling like this secondary was going to be good. It's been as good as advertised, Sean, and I think it's getting better. The question, of course, now it's, do you pay Jalen Johnson, which he just continues to play well. He's earning himself a paycheck.
Look, I'm going to comment on that, Kyle, but I do want to point out, you talk about, I know Tremaine Edmonds, some sections of the fan base were wondering early on in the season, like, is he worth what they're paying him? I think you see the difference between when you got a coverage linebacker, a dude who's supposed to be really elite in pass coverage with those lanky arms. If you don't have a pass rush, it's probably not going to matter because you can get the mismatch you're looking for. But when you got the Montez Sweat in there pressuring the quarterback, you see how much that helps the linebackers and the secondary. And I think they're playing really well together. The coverage and the pass rush are helping each other out. And yeah, I mean, Jalen Johnson, another pick. That's 4 now on the season. And he's been in position a lot to make plays. There's several ones that he hasn't made. Look, the man's going to earn himself a lot of money, whether it's the Bears or somebody else.
Mark says, and you can imagine how much better the Bears defense will be when we get a few more pass rushers. Yeah, I'm guessing, and it from the tone of people in the chat, but around Chicago today, if you're a Bears fan, there's probably a lot of optimism right now. You got back-to-back NFC North wins. You just beat a 9-3 Detroit team. You start looking at what you got on this roster. You got all this money. You got these draft picks. Carolina with a 2-game lead in the tiebreaker for the number 1 overall pick. Things are looking up for Bears fans all of a sudden here. And, on top of that, we haven't mentioned Gervin Dexter with his first career sack yesterday, Sean. He's playing better as well.
Yeah, I thought he's played really well the last couple of games. He's a guy I want to write about here in these next few weeks because you can see him improving and you can see him making plays. He had that sack. It's funny, like we're talking about this D-line as playing at a really high level. And, before the year, we were saying they still don't have their 3 technique, which, they have, Matt Eberflus has said, is kind of the biggest spot on a defensive line. Like if you can find a guy who can play that spot at a really high level, imagine what this D-line could be next year and in the future.
I think we got about 10 minutes more we're going to spend with you guys this morning. I think this is a good time, Sean, to kind of pivot towards that, right? Over these next 4 games and then into the future here. So let's start with this season, because suddenly, like, the playoffs, while still far-fetched, are not like, I would not have guessed that we would be sitting here on December 11th and I would be able to say, like, there is a path for the Bears that we could go into week 18 with that Green Bay game being a win and in situation for both teams.
Man, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun for everyone involved?
Remember, think about week 1 when the Bears got absolutely stomped by the Packers 38-20 in a game that wasn't even that close.
And you know what? This Bears team will play those guys so much closer the second time. I mean, the defense is just playing at such a high level. I don't think Jordan Love's going to have as easy a time as he did in that game. But yeah, you know what? I know it's look, they got to win out. They probably have to win out, and that's a tough task. That's a tall order to ask a team to win 6 straight games to end the year after they went almost 2 calendar years without back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
But the matchups are favorable. I know the Browns have a really tough defense, but that's certainly a winnable game when they don't have their starting quarterback. All these games are winnable, and yeah, like the playoffs are on the table. I know the players like to mention that. If they need the extra motivation, great. Mention it all you want. That's fine. You know what? They just gotta keep winning.
They do. And while I'll say this, the Bears, I think, opened up as like I don't know what it is, either 2.5 or 3 point underdog. It's at Cleveland. If the Bears win this game, I'm going to feel pretty good about their odds of getting to 8-8 going into that game against Green Bay. Like, I think they're going to beat Arizona. I think they're going to beat Atlanta. Like, you give this Bears defense and this pass rush the way it's playing right now against Desmond Ridder, I don't like the odds of the Atlanta Falcons in that game. So this is not going to be an easy matchup against Cleveland, but the Bears are playing really good football right now. Like, and you're going to get a veteran quarterback back there like Joe Flacco. This is a Cleveland team that wants to run the ball. You're not running the ball against this Bears defense right now. So this sets up to be a pretty good matchup in my book for the Bears.
This is, I mean, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I don't think we would have thought this game in Cleveland in December was gonna be as important as it is. But I mean, this is a big game for the Bears, and I didn't, I was obviously at Soldier Field yesterday. I didn't really get to watch Joe Flacco and the Browns, but I certainly saw his name mentioned a lot on my Twitter feed. I'm curious to go back and actually watch that game and see what it looked like with Joe Flacco stepping in for them.
Yeah, Mike says not only did the Bears win, but the Rams, Falcons, and Seahawks all lost, and Green Bay could well lose tonight against the Giants. Yeah, one thing, I thought Minnesota was going to lose yesterday too. They played terribly against the Las Vegas Raiders. That was just an abysmal football game yesterday afternoon between those two teams. So that's where we are, right? Like at minimum, like the Bears got this win against Detroit. Let's see. I think it was Rick that had a question earlier asking if we were in about Luke Getsy or not. Sorry, Jake. This was up a little further. He asked if we were in on Luke Getsy. Sean, what are you thinking right now about Luke Getsy?
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like, look, if you keep Matt Eberflus, I don't know. Man, it's so tough. I've been saying all along, you got to let this play out and see what it looks like this last month here. On one hand, if you keep Matt Eberflus, I could see the argument for making changes on the staff. Obviously, they're going to need to hire a defensive coordinator, whether he calls the plays or not. You want another voice in there. On the offensive side, I mean, yeah, it kind of comes down to like, did you see the progression that you hoped you would see? Do you think a more experienced coordinator would make a difference for Justin Fields, or would that be bad to get a new voice in there and start from scratch, so to speak?
Mike says, as an amateur handicapper, I would handicap the current betting favorite outcome on this season is Flus is back with Fields and Getsy as the scapegoat. See, I a month ago I could have bought that. The thing is, a month ago I also didn't think Matt Eberflus was going to be the Bears. I think it's a package deal. Like if they play well enough, like if they continue to play at the level they're playing right now, let's say even if they got the win yesterday against Detroit. So we were going into this looking for 5 games. That means if they go 3-2 in those 5 games, like I think everyone's back. They go 4-1, everyone's back. You know what I mean? Now, if they struggle like these last 4 games, they go 1-3 and the offense doesn't look good. Yeah, like maybe that puts Luke Getsy back in that. But I don't see that happening. I don't see this team falling apart at this point, Sean. Like I think they're going to play well enough down the stretch that everyone's going to be back.
I can see both scenarios playing out. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, I certainly see this team playing well right now. I don't anticipate that to just, that they're going to just fall off a cliff here at the end. But at the same time, I mean, you do have to look at the season as a whole. I think you could make the argument that the offense still has a lot of room to grow and could be better with a different coordinator. I don't know if that's the right call. It ultimately
that execution we were talking about, like on that screenplay, like, is that something that you put on the players, or is that something where you're like, hey, Luke Getsy, you got to be scheming that up better. You can't have Darnell Mooney in that situation.
There could be value in continuity and having your offensive staff back. I mean, keep in mind, like you fire the coordinator, you're probably losing some of your assistants too. Guys are going to be moving to other jobs or whatever. At the same time, like it comes down to, if you're keeping Matt Eberflus, that's his call. That's sure Ryan Poles will have some say in it, but the head coach is hiring the coordinators and that's ultimately going to be up to him.
If you're running it back with Matt Eberflus and Justin Fields, and you've seen the progression that you've seen, I don't think you're changing offensive coordinator and kind of maybe not resetting the clock as much as like you've made this progress from what was essentially a train wreck at the beginning of the season to now you're playing well. You're feeling like Justin Fields has the chance still to be the quarterback of the future. I just don't see the benefit of upsetting that apple cart if they continue to play well down this last month of the season.
Yeah, and I hate to sound like a broken record. I've been saying it for the last several weeks, but you just got to let the last several games play out. You got to see what it looks like, and if it whether you're winning or losing, if the offense, it's how the offense looks. Are they moving the football? Are they scoring points? Just let it play out. I think the answer is gonna present itself. When we get through week 18 and we have the full picture of what this team is.
I agree. I I wholeheartedly agree. Actually, like I think people have made a decision on Luke Getsy, and I don't want to discount. Like there are certainly legitimate reasons to wonder about Luke Getsy. I just also think there's been enough. Like you got to give him credit for some of the progression of this team. You have to give him credit for the progression of Justin Fields over the last month.
Yeah, I mean, look, those guys work really, really closely. That's absolutely like any positive things you're seeing from Justin. You got to credit the offensive coaching staff too. Even throwing QB coach Andrew Janoko. Those guys are working with him every single day. As it really, yeah. I mean, if you're running it back, run it back. If you're starting over, start over, draft a quarterback, do the whole thing. I really think it makes the most sense to go one way or the other. Obviously, like I think it was Mike with the comment who said, yeah, you could have a scapegoat and all this, and sure, I understand why teams do it that way. I understand why
you only need a scapegoat if you're worried that your job,
yeah,
if you're worried your job is on the line, and I don't think at this point Matt Eberflus has to worry that his job is on the line.
If they keep playing like this, he won't have to worry about that.
Right. I don't think he needs a scapegoat. Yeah. So I don't want to start over. I'm tired of rebuilding, losing. Rick says, that's understandable. It's been a long time since the Bears had, you get one season every once in a while and then you go right back to getting your teeth kicked in as a Bears fan, Rick. I get it for you.
And look, I don't think, from a roster standpoint, you wouldn't have to start over per se. I mean, look, they've made some really nice moves. Look how this defense is playing. Kyle, you mentioned it, like you got to re-sign Jalen Johnson. I think that's going to be a huge talking point going into the offseason. I think he's playing really well. You got the franchise tag in your back pocket. You can go that way. But keep that dude on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got to get deeper. The depth is still got to get better on the team. The wide receiver position, despite DJ Moore, they got to get better at wide receiver. They're going to have to get deeper at tight end behind Cole Kmet as well. Mike Johnson says, add Marvin Harrison and a blue chip center, and Getsy's offense might look better. Yeah, they definitely need more playmakers on the offense side of the ball, Sean.
Yeah, and I agree. I think center could be one of those spots that they're looking at in say, the second round, third round. You're probably not going to draft one in the top 10 with your first round picks, but that's a spot that they're going to be looking at, maybe even in free agency.
Anything we haven't hit on, Sean? I feel like we've got about everything from this week's game.
No, I mean, I think, look, the Bears got a lot of home games down the stretch too. I think the weather, we might have talked about it on Friday, Kyle, but Jared Goff outside, teams coming are going to have to be playing outside against these Bears. And even, the game up in Green Bay, the game in Cleveland, like the Bears seem to be comfortable in that situation, especially that defense. I think that's going to play to their advantage down the stretch here.
I do too. I absolutely do. It's going to be an interesting month in Chicago here and see what these Bears can do. But we're going to go ahead, guys, and sign off for now. Make sure you stick to ShawLocal.com all week long. We'll have a lot of coverage heading up to this game against the Browns. You can follow Sean on X at Sean_Hammond. You can find myself at Kyle Nabors, and you can find all of our content at ShawLocal.com and on Twitter at Bears_Insider. For Sean Hammond, I am Kyle Nabors. Thank you to Jake Barlson for producing behind the scenes. And thank you everyone who joined us live this morning. We'll talk to you guys on Friday morning. Take care, everyone.